and welcome to Fascinating Phylums. I'm Sir Winston Wallace Wallaby V, and this is Sir Colonel Prime Minister, Honorary Prime Minister Larry. Right, so today we will be exploring the fascinating phylum of Nematoda, also known as the roundworms.
Because they're round.
Yes, they're round, hence the name. Anyways, moving forward, we'll start off the program with an overview of the general characteristics of the nematodes. Then we'll look at a few specific species of nematodes.
Right. Brilliant.
So, nematodes continue to exhibit bilateral symmetry and complex cephalization, just as the phylum of Platyhelminthes that we covered last week does.
Platyhelminthes what?
Moving on, nematodes also have a hydrostatic skeleton, which gives them a rigid support system.
Brilliant. I must concur.
Well, in that case, would you care to explain how the hydrostatic skeleton works?
Well, hydro means water, and static is electricity?
Not quite, old chap. A hydrostatic skeleton is a fluid-filled cavity within the worm. It works in much the same way as when you fill a hose with water, causing it to become rigid. Now then, nematodes are the first phylum we have covered that has a complete digestive system. Meaning that they have developed two openings in their digestive tract. One for the intake of food and one for the expulsion of waste. This allows the food to travel in one direction through the worm's bodies, which allows the worm to ingest new food while their body continues to digest the leftover residuals of previously eaten food.
Quite similar to when you eat beans and then you start...
Right, nematodes also have another feature, a pseudocoelom. This is a body cavity that lies between the mesoderm and the endoderm. So it's not a true coelom.
And what exactly does that imply?
Well, a true coelom is a body cavity made entirely of mesodermic lining, which is to say, skeletons or bones. For example, our rib cage provides a coelom for our lungs. A pseudocoelom is lined with endoderm on the inside and mesoderm on the outside, so it's not as stable of a cavity as a true coelom is. That is composed entirely out of mesoderm.
What does all this nonsense mean for the bloody worm?
I'm quite glad you asked, old chap. The pseudocoelom allows the worm to more evenly distribute nutrients and gases that it has ingested throughout its body. And, being fluid-filled, it also acts as the hydrostatic skeleton.
I do say brilliant.
So, we'll be looking at two specific examples of live nematodes, both of which are parasitic, meaning they survive by living off of infecting a host organism.
Right you are. There are also free-living nematodes, but they're not as common or as interesting as the parasitic ones. First up, we have the guinea worm.
This is the guinea worm. It begins life by living in copepods, which are nearly microscopic shrimp-like creatures that live in water.
And when you drink the water with the infected copepods in it, you, in turn, become infected.
The mother worm will then travel throughout your body, and then she will cause an open wound on your skin, in which she will lay her eggs.
In hope that the infected human will wash the wound in water, so that her eggs will find their way back to their original copepod host.
Then, if we ingest the water with the infected copepods in it, the whole ruddy process starts. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. My father was a well-known worm whisperer. It runs in the family.
Right.
In conclusion, don't drink water, kids.
No, just contaminated water out of streams and
Water.
such. Is there anything you'd like to add? I suppose we'll be moving on then.
Righto. Next up, we've got Trigonella spiralis.
Ah, the
Hi guys!
porkworm.
No, the Trigonella spiralis.
Oh no, porkworm is just a nickname, since this parasitic nematode is oftentimes found in undercooked pork.
My nickname is Porky.
I had pork last week.
Right, the symptoms begin initially with nausea and diarrhea.
Excuse me.
And then, the infected host begins experiencing extreme muscle pains, difficulty breathing, weakening of pulse, and weakening of blood pressure. And not to mention several nervous disorders. Finally, it leads to death by heart failure, kidney complications, or respiratory issues. Quite painful, really. Well, this pretty much wraps up today's installment of fascinating phylums on nematodes. I do say, old chap, are you quite alright? Probably sleeping on the job, as usual. Next week's episode will cover annelids, and be sure to tune in. He's not breathing. Well, at least I'll be here due to my co-host's most unfortunate demise. And on that bombshell, we'll end. Good night, everybody.